or May 2007, it was $1.75. At the height of the crisis, it was 14. That's November 2008, when the entire crack hit the fan. Even then, it didn't recover to $1.75. Even right before COVID, it was still about 2. Okay? And AIG bought a lot of these things. Okay? The trouble is, these things also trade in the market. You know, if you want to cover yourself, let's say you bought it when the credit default spread was $1.75 for a double B. Okay? That means your income is, let's round it up to $2 million a year on a $100 million position. Suddenly this thing moved up to 14, okay? On a mark-to-market basis, you're losing $12 million a year. Because if you wanted to close that position, you have to promise somebody to pay them $14 million a year for the next 5 years. But your original position is getting $2 million. But you got rid of the default exposure. That's kind of how it works. So on a mark-to-market basis, you lost $12 million a year, or over 5 years, $60 million on a $100 million position. And you're pretty much gone. Remember, a lot of financial institutions, by their very nature, have very high leverage. The entire point of being a bank or bank-like institution is to make money with other people's money. And if you put $1 of your own money, even a relatively conservative bank would have $8 of other people's money. You know what was the leverage ratio of Lehman Brothers when they went down? 30. Now, 30 means if your assets lost 3% of their value, you're literally bankrupt. You have zero value. And for a 30-year mortgage to lose 3% of its value, typically a 30-year mortgage has a duration of roughly 15 years or so. That means every percentage point the mortgage yields increase would reduce the value by about 15%, approximately. So 2% increase in the yields of that specific class of assets is going to bankrupt you. And, AA yields spreads went from 2 to 14. Even a healthy bank would have gone down. Coming back to the original story, the only reason Goldman survived was a completely unlikely figure bailed out Goldman, not the government. You know who could that be? Or can you guess? Who had that kind of money other than the government? Huh? No, tech companies were also in real trouble.
Kennedy?
Huh?
Kennedy? President Kennedy?
No. It was the old guy from Omaha. Huh? The sage of Omaha. Famous investor?
Yeah, Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
Oh,
He lent them $10 billion. He bought preferred stock, but it was convertible to Goldman shares. Goldman promised to pay him 10% a year, as long as he didn't convert them. Plus, at the time, it was convertible to Goldman shares at $160 a share. I don't know if Goldman did any splits since then. Let's check. GS. Let's see, charts. 2008. Yeah, there's no split. So at the bottom, Goldman shares were trading around. Oh, there are dividends. So these things are adjusted for dividends. But it was about the price of Goldman those days. And late 2008, early 2009, they got the funding from Warren Buffett. So that would be $80 or so. Within less than a year, Goldman was trading around 200. Warren Buffett actually converted all of these and made money. So you can get convertible debt financing. In a sense, from an investing point of view, investing money into Goldman as a debt those years, you don't want to think about it unless you believe that government would bail them out. And by the way, Lehman and Bear Stearns and Merrill Lynch were not bailed out. Lehman and Bear Stearns went literally bankrupt. They were liquidated. Merrill Lynch was sold to Bank of America for $2 a share. At the height, before the crash, Merrill Lynch was trading close to $400 a share. And that 200, the Treasury Secretary at the time, Hank Paulson, said, come on, don't make it one, make it two. It was that arbitrary. And Merrill Lynch was big in brokerage. They had a nickname, it was called the Thundering Herd. This was before online brokerage became the thing. And Bank of America wanted to buy that brokerage business. So, but they weren't bailed out either. They pretty much went down. I had a friend who became he was the head of Merrill Lynch Tokyo 1 year before the crash. About 6 months before the crash, they made him head of global fixed income. Basically everything that involves loans, convertibles, mortgage-backed securities, what have you. The guy who was the head of global fixed income before him made $175 million, including his bonuses, because that business was booming. They were lending as they were lending, house prices were going up. Since these were subprime, the yields were going up even more. If house prices go up by 10%, a single B rated mortgage-backed security can go up to single A easily because quality of collateral goes up. And of course, when they go down, a double A could go down to single B, as pretty much they did. This guy, he lost all of his vested and unvested options. Even if they were vested, those options were worth nothing because exercise prices were way above $200. And, so they were not bailed out. The depositors essentially were bailed out. For example, last crisis we had, what's that, Silicon Valley Bank? Fed pretty much backed up all the deposits. If they had not, our banking system would have collapsed. It was that simple. Unfortunately. Anyway, so going back to valuation, let's think about the structure. We'll do more of that on Wednesday, but let's think about the structure of income statements. You start with revenues or sales. Typically, when you're forecasting income statements, that's your crucial inputs. To be forecasted. Because almost everything else kind of works through that. Then you have variable production costs. This is not including things like depreciation. Depending upon your business, these are kind of, technical parameters. If you're building a car, it's going to take certain amount of raw materials, certain amount of labor, certain amount of energy, and your engineers can make predictions for you, and you can figure that out. Fixed production costs. There are certain expenditures that you have to make even before you produce a single car. I mean, don't think of this as this is not overhead. Then you have what we call sales